Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on Masechta Yevamot Daf Chaf Daled, we are going to begin on Chaf Daled with Aleph 4 lines from the top. So the previous Mishnah concluded that Kadmu v'Konsu in Moitziin. So in the event that you have someone who does Kedushin to two sisters, doesn't know which one, or for that matter, two people who are unrelated, they do Kedushin, they don't know which of the two sisters they're married to. So we said that Chalitza is done depending on whether or not the two brothers who died, the two men rather that died, that they have two brothers each, or one brother, or two brothers. So we end up saying that if you're supposed to do Chalitza, then Yibum, but if Yibum was first, then we say in Moitziin. Now, Tani Shila Vafil Shneim Kohanim says that even if we're dealing with Kohanim over here, says Rashi, V'chad Minahu Vadi Chalutza Notziv, and therefore one of them definitely is marrying a woman who had Chalitza done to her. So my time, well, why would that be allowed? A Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gerusha, and also cannot marry a woman who had Chalitza. So my time, a Chalutza Rabbanan he. Yosavi Chalutza Lukosa Rabbanan. The whole element of Chalitza, for a Kohen not to be able to marry a Kohen, is only a din Rabbanan, because it really stems from that she was an almana, and a Kohen is allowed to marry a widow. But Chalitza, which it does have certain properties like a divorce, that's why we say that a Kohen midrabanan doesn't marry a woman who had Chalitza. But over here, the whole case was a suffix. The whole notion of which woman was actually married, and where is the Zika, the whole thing was a suffix to begin with. Therefore, the Rabbanan can be geyser. You have a pasuk which is beferish. No, really, it's again Chalitza is only the Rabbanan, even though there's a pasuk which is a smachta. Next Mishnah, mitzvah begadol. So if you have multiple brothers, and again one of them dies, so the oldest brother is one who should be the one that does yibum. If let's say one of the younger brothers does yibum before the older brother does, then it's a valid yibum. Tanaban v'haya b'chor. So the pasuk says it's referring to a firstborn child, which is obviously the oldest brother. Mikan shemitzvah begadol yavim. So that pasuk explicitly implies that it's the oldest one. Now asher teiled, it says giving birth, pratla ilonis, she'ein yoledes. If the woman who's the Yevamot cannot have children, then there's no din yibum. Yakum al shem achiv l'nachala. So it says the element of yibum will be able to stand by his brother when it comes to inheritance. In other words, the one who does yibum is also going to take his brother's stead when it comes to Yerusha. So Atam l'nachlo elo l'shem Yosef karno Yosef. Maybe this is pasuk of Yokum al shem achiv. Sounds like, for example, if the name was Yosef, so you should name your son Yosef, right? So maybe it just literally means you're supposed to name your child after your deceased brother. Yochanan karnos Yochanan. Now, never kan Yokum al shem achiv and never l'holon al shem achehim yikaru benachlasam. Ma shem ha'omer l'holon nachla shem ha'omer kan l'nachla. So when it came to these psukim which have to do with the inheritance of the children of Yosef, so therefore it's referring to Nachla. So too over here, therefore it's Nachla. So it's prat with Saris. So if you have a man, if one of the brothers is Saris, which means he's not able to have children, shishmoi mochoi, that basically his name is already blotted out because he's not capable of having children. Namely, the brother. If the brother was not able to have a child to begin with, so it's already, his name was already not shaykh. So normally we don't deviate from the simple reading of a pasuk. So here we have Gzer Shava, and therefore removes it completely from the simple explanation, says Rashi. She'ein sarach likros livno b'shem achiv hames. Interesting. You don't actually have to name your child after your brother who died. You don't have to do that. It's only telling you that you're going to be Yorish. Okay. V'il lav gzer shava. So you're telling me 1 second, there's no gzer shava, so havamina shem mamish. So then what would you think? That you should just name your kid Yosef, if your brother's name was Yosef. So Laman Kimizahir Rachmana. Who is this pasuk warning? Well, Yavam, referring to the man. So Yokom al Shem Achicha Miboile. Then it should say Achicha, your brother, if that's actually what we would derive from it. Says Rashi, Elavada bi Yavam Gufe Mishtoi Kro. We're talking about the Yavam himself. Who based in Karm Rachmana Shiyokom Hayavam al Shem Achiv Hames Lanachla. It's talking about you yourself are able to be Yorish. So Ilu Beidina Yokom al Shem Achi Aviv Miboile. V'dilma Hachi Karmel Ulhu Rachman. That's what maybe the pasuk means. But based in Imrulei Liyavam Kum al Shem Achiv. Maybe the based in says you should name your child the same name as your brother. Elasu Gzer Shava Afikti Legamri. And the Gzer Shava says, no, that's not what it's talking about Nachla. So Hashdi Yamrit Kro Begadol Ksiv, if now we're establishing that the pasuk is talking about the oldest brother, so Ema Bechor Liyavim, Pashad Lo Liyavim. Maybe it's Davka. It's saying that only the Bechor has the ability to do Yibum. Why do we say if the Katan, a younger brother, does Yibum that it would work? Maybe it doesn't work at all. Or the Pasha, again, another child who's younger. So we know that if you have a brother who's not in the picture, Ruvain died and only later on Levi is born, so that's a case of the Shalohai Balamo. So the question is, why do you need to mention that case? It's obviously referring to a younger brother who died, and the older brother, there's an older brother. So the fact is that we can't do Yibum on him. And we said, let's say it's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. So in this case, one of them, Reuven, dies, and Shimon can do Yibum. And then the question is, if Yibum was done before or after Levi was born, it's a whole machlokas and the Gemara as we saw before. But now that Levi's born, he certainly is not able to do, cannot do Yibum on not only Reuven's wife, because that's considered to be an Ereva, but even Shimon's wife, because it's a Saras Ereva. So the fact that we know this, obviously it's not only referring to only the older brother. It's possible it could happen to anyone as well, because otherwise it's just saying that if he was born, then he immediately could do it. Fine. So Parach Rabacha ve'emle mute bochor de'ima. Maybe it's coming to exclude a firstborn from the mother's side. No hahulo matzas amr. Why? The yibum benachla tol rachmana benachla min ablu min aim. We already know this because when it comes to Nachla only is totally on the father's side, not from the mother's side. Yerusha is totally on the father's side. And therefore, that's not what this is coming to exclude. Because we know the Bochor Me'imo, if it's a firstborn or half brother from the mother's side, then Yibum is not done. It's only when they're brothers from the father, or both. So the aim, why don't we say ki ika b'chor tiskay mitzvahs yibum, ki leika b'chor lo tiskay mitzvahs yibum. Maybe we only should do yibum in the event that there is a b'chor. So makra umeis achem mehem milu askin umeis b'chor. It doesn't explicitly say the order. So maybe the oldest one died. So we see the yibum will occur even when the b'chor is not around. The aima demeis katan. Maybe the younger one died, and it's saying only in that situation is Yibum take place. So Hamid Rachman Eishas Achav Shal Habalamo. So the Ema Ki Lake Bechor, if there's no Bechor, Kadam, Katan, before the young one, zacha. V'ika b'chor kadam katan lo zacha. So Makra ki yeshu achim yachtav huksha yeshivas achim zelazeh. So we make this connection of brothers one to the other. Tzve'ema ki ika b'chor lahadar gadol. Maybe if there's a b'chor, go after the older one. Ki leika b'chor ein chayzun eitzel gadol. Maybe if there's no b'chor, so then we don't go after the older one. Let's say, for example, the oldest child is a girl. So then this boy is not a b'chor, the second child. So then maybe it doesn't. We're not chayzer after the gadol, even though he's the oldest brother. Alamatanya bayin kshisha mitzvah gadol yabim. Or ratza, if he doesn't want, eitzel achiv hakatan, right? Which sounds like we always we get the oldest one, and it doesn't make any difference even if he's not a b'chor. Lo ratza chayzer eitzel hagadol. If he doesn't want, then you go to the oldest son. So your answer is ki b'chor, ma b'chor, b'choraso garmelo. Is the fact that he was a b'chor is what caused him. Av gadol gedolaso garmelo. It's the fact that he's a gadol is what causes him to be able to have yibum. Ve'ema ki miyavim b'chor lishkol nachla. Maybe when the b'chor does yibum, that's when he'll get a nachla. Ki miyavim poshet lulishkol nachla. Maybe if a different brother does the yibum, he won't inherit the yerusha of his brother. So Makra yokum al shem achiv v'harikam. So as we said, that this is actually referring to this notion that yibum is done so that yerusha will take place. It doesn't matter if it's an older or younger. So the el b'chor dikar rachman l'mai hilchasa. It's hard to understand what exactly is the reason why it says b'chor, because after all, you don't need to have a b'chor. It's not necessarily the firstborn, and all the dinim are the same. If it's a firstborn that does the yibum, or a pashut does yibum, there's still all the dinim are the same, and that the nachla, the yerusha will take place. So my hilchas, as we continue to chav zayin chav daladam beis. So my hilchasa legiryusa. When it comes to detraction, what does that mean? Ma b'chor eino neitel korei kiva mochsuk af hai eino neitel roi kiva mochsuk. So we know that when it comes to a firstborn, the only time that he gets pishnayim, the double amount, is only things that are actually around at the time of their father's passing. However, something which is only roy fit for the father to have inherited, but he has not yet inherited, we say that he does not take pishnayim on that part. He'll divide that up equally with his other brothers. So too, that's why we mentioned before. That's the same din over here. Says Rashi, Av Yavam hanaitel pishnayim, even if he will take double, b'nechsi aviv chelko v'chelk achiv, his portion, his brother's portion, shemeis in a naitel broi kiva mochsuk. He's not going to end up taking the roi kiva mochsuk. Question 5. Miacher u'mitzvahs yibum begadol. The mitzvah is just the older one. V'lav davka b'bechor. You don't have to be a firstborn. L'may hilchasa karachmana l'yavim bechor. So why is it mentioned the word bechor? So again, he says like Yerusa shein naita b'nachla b'roi kechelak b'choira. Okay. Okay. Question TA7. V'haya ha'bechor asher teleid. Ma'adu amrinan derak bechor miyavim avol poshet ena miyavim. Why don't we say, as we mentioned, that only bechor can do yibum, but not a poshet, not another child. So on this, it's imkain lamuli mutate. Why would we come to exclude a brother shelo haya bolamo? That that's considered one of the Erevas. What do you mean? Obviously, it means he's not the oldest one. So then, if that's the case, that a poshet would not be miyavim, then you wouldn't need to exclude that because obviously it's he's not the bechor. TA7. So let's see how it says in the Gemara. Fine. TA7. This was the question. Hashta de amrit kar begadol ksiv ema bechor liyavim. Pasha is lo miyavim. Mikain eshes achiv shol hayabo lamo demir rachman lamole. Fine. That was TA7. TB. 8. Ksiva hay habachor. Man nilmud mikach de tol hakasev hayimam babachor madu karir bachor. So this may be the same question I had before. TB8. Nilmud shemitzvah begadol liavim. The mitzvahs for the older one to yibam. Bekar bachor gerusa the mabachor eno noitel baroi avs hai eno noitel. So it's really the same answers we saw on question 5. So this is number 5 and also TB8. Okay, TB8. So do Chav Dalad Amad Aleph, Chav Dalad Amad Beis. Okay, let's now continue with the next Mishnah. So the Mishnah says as follows. Hanitan, says Rashi, Choshud, someone who is suspect. There is a rumor. Al Hashivcha Val Vinishtach Rora. And then, so she was a midwife, and then she became freed. So there was a question, maybe she was having tashmish, she was having bia, and then all of a sudden she became freed. Oh, gaira. You have a non-Jewish woman, all of a sudden she converts. The one who is the suspected individual should not marry her. However, if they do get married, we're not going to say it's an issue. They're allowed to do so. They're allowed to remain married, I should say. Hanitan al eshes ish, a person who is nitan al eshes ish. So this woman who is married, there's a suspicion that she may have had tashmish, v'hoitzioa v'tachas yado, and then she gets divorced. Afal b'shekanas yaitzi. Even though she ends up remarrying this guy who is a suspected adulterer, we say yotzi. They have to leave that marriage. So says Rashi, Hinitan al eshes ish v'hoyotzio, based in mitachas bala b'shvil zeh she'asula v'holach zeh v'nosa. So Based says that she can't stay in this marriage, and all of a sudden she goes and marries the guy that there was a whole suspicion with, there's a whole rumor about. So yotzi the midaraisa asura nami lo boil. So because she had, if she had tashmish with this boil, with a man, she's usher, because it says v'nitma, and we darshan shnei pamim echad l'bal v'echad l'boil, as it says in Masechta Sota, as we'll see shortly. The din is that not only if a woman has commits adultery, she usher to her husband, she's also usher to the man that she had adultery with. So therefore, if she marries him, she has to leave that marriage. So Hagiyores miyahavya. So it says there was a whole question about this woman who was not Jewish, and she converted. So you're not supposed to marry her, but if you did, we let you stay. Now the whole question therefore implies that it was a good conversion. It says Rashi, it seems like the whole reason why she became Jewish is only so she can get married. If you have a person who converted in order to marry a woman, let's say the whole reason why this woman decides to convert is because she wants to marry. She's not Jewish and she doesn't want to engage in intermarriage, so therefore she ends up converting. Someone who converts in order to be by the table of kings, Lashum Avdei Shlomo, for the sake of the servant Shlomo. Says Rashi, Bali Shrorahoyu, that they are able to have power, it's for financial gain. Einon Gerim, it says they're not converts. It doesn't count, because it's not authentic. Devarim Nechemia. Sharim Nechemia Omer Echad Geri Arayos, if let's say you have someone like the Kutim, that they converted because they were scared of these lions, and they did it for protection. Ve'echad geri chalomos, or they end up having these dreams, and in their dream it says you got to convert. So ve'echad geri Mordechai ve'Esther. So again, it says in Megillah Esther, Rabbi Mami Aretz Misyahadim, that a lot of the people who are Am Haaretz wanted to become Jewish. So, but they did it because things were up for the Jews. Einan Gerim ad shis garu bizman hazeh. It's only conversion if it's done this nowadays. Bizman hazeh sachatatach el ema ki bizman hazeh. It has to be just like this time. Says Rashi, shol yasa machmas sharara. You're not doing it because things are good. You're just doing it because you really mean it. So the question is, how do we allow this woman to actually, do we say that she's Jewish when it's clearly that she did it l'shem ishus? She did it for the sake of marrying this guy, l'shem ish. So ha'itmar la'om Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Martam ishmei derab halacha devi omer kulam gerim heim. It's actually a machlokas. There are those that say, even if maybe you had ulterior motives of sorts, nonetheless the din is that you are still considered to be Jewish. Look at this Tosfos, halacha kadibri ha'omer kulam gerim heim hach geri arayos dami. Laha diikaman de omer kusim geri arayos hein dahasam ha'oivdim Eloheihem. They were like still engaged in worshiping idols. So again, the whole machlokas, where they geri emes or geri rayos, the point is that they geri rayos is not just they're scared of lions. It means that they completely it was a totally not authentic whatsoever. The conversion had no meaning because they still believed in their idols. There was really no conversion. And the halacha is going to be oimer kum gerim heim. So So then what's the problem? If in fact it's a good marriage, so in l'chadchila they should just be able to get married. So mishum de Rav Asi, Rav Asi haser mimcha ikshus peh ulezus safosayim. A person should remove from themselves the curving of the mouth and the bending of the lips. So again, what's the problem? He should just be able to marry her because she's totally Jewish, not a problem. But again, because there is this this rumor spoken about them, so therefore it's really better to not marry. But if you did, we're not going to stop it. Tarabanan, ein mekabel ger limosa Mashiach. We're not going to accept converts in the future. Again, because the Moshe Mashiach is going to be a time where everything is going to be on the up and up for Klal Yisrael. So therefore, it may not be authentic in their desire to want to convert. They didn't accept converts then either, for the same reason. Rabbi Eliezer, Mikra, Hengor Yogar Efes Meosi. When Hashem's not there, Mi gar itach, who's going to live with you? Olayach yipol, I'll idach lo. Fine. Says Rashi, Hein gor habach lehiskayer yoger efes meoisi ba'oid she'enani imachem. Yiskayer dehainu b'zman hazeh. So it's a good nowadays, where Hashem's presence is not readily found, it's not so clear, the Gilui Shechina, so therefore we will be Makabel Gerim, because now it's not so pashut that, that Klal Yisrael is going to be great. But eventually things will be better, and at that point it's going to be too late to Makabel the Geras. Hanitain al Eshasish. So again, the situation where the woman who's married is suspect of rumors, so then if she gets divorced based on this, she's not to marry her adulterer. Omer Rav uve Edim. This is not just stam, this is a little bit of a rumor. It means there's actually witnesses to testify in this. Says Rashi, the fact that we don't allow them to get married, Kikon Shibo Edim al Kol Harishon. There's actually witnesses that came, Shirauha Shazinsa Imo. They actually saw her. They have actual eye testimony that they saw her committing adultery. So that's the significant reason why, even if they got married, we make them go away, because it's for sure she's usher to the boil. So Amar Sheshas Amina Kinoyim B'Shachav Rav Omer L'Hai Shmaisa. It must have been he was sleeping. Desanya Hanitan al Eishas Ish. It says, if again a woman who is suspect, Boitzihu al Yado, and based in required a get to be given in this situation because of it being a davar yodua, v'nis garsha mitachas yedei acher, and she ends up marrying someone else and then gets divorced. So im kanas lo yotzi, if the suspected adulterer marries her, then lo yoitzi. So what happened? It's not in a situation, says Rashi, Reuven nitan al dina esha Shimon. So Reuven was suspect. Girsha Shimon. So Shimon divorced her. Nasa Nachshon. And so she married another man, totally out of the picture, Nachshon, and then she got divorced from him. So im kansa Reuven mi'ato yoitzi. So this situation, she didn't marry the suspected adulterer immediately, but she married someone else and got divorced in the interim. So we say, in that situation, lo yoitzi if they're witnesses, kiyas acher ve'afki l'kola ma'hava. It doesn't make sense. Even if someone comes as a separation and the rumors stop, it doesn't make any difference. If we know for sure that the attachment is not, then it will be yoitzi. El lavdaleke. It must be there were no witnesses. The time of the asa acher v'afsake l'kola. The only reason why is because someone else came and broke up the situation because some Nachshon married her and divorced. Hol lav hachi mafkinan, which is mashma. There was no middleman. Even without Adam, you would still have to leave the marriage. So l'chayra, it's not true that it's down in a situation where there was Adus, even if without Adus. So no, who didn't have the lawyer asa acher v'afke l'kol. It makes no difference if she married a guy in between or not. The same din will apply. That it's all totally if there was witnesses. If there were witnesses, then obviously she could never be with this man. If there was no witnesses, then we say if this man marries her, then lo yitzi. So even though someone else came in the middle, the chiddush is that Reuven should still not marry her, but if he went and did it anyway, we're not going to say he has to walk out of that marriage. Meisvei. The med when do we say this din? When do we say, says Rashi, the im kanas hanitain, that if the nitain, this adulterer, goes and marries her, the yoitzi, and he has to leave, they have to leave. She had no children from the first one. So it's if there was no children. So no children is no problem. But the problem is that there's this rumor. So all of a sudden she now marries this guy who there's a rumor about. So if we force her to leave that marriage, then people are going to say it must be because they actually did have relations, and maybe these children are really from this guy, and these children are a mamzer, and therefore, because of that chshad, we don't want them to leave that marriage because she has other children. We don't want those children to be labeled as mamzerim. Okay, so the im bo edi tuma. If let's say witnesses come, afil yeshla kama banim teitze, then of course she always has to leave. But what do we see? That with no children, no Adam, you still give a get. So we still say that yoitzi, even in that situation, even if there's no Adam. So Rab Mokilul Mastisin b'yeshla banim, b'yeshla Adam. He says that we're talking about a case where there are children and there are witnesses. So in that situation, because there are banim, so therefore we're concerned for them to walk away. B'yeshla Adam, again, if there are witnesses, then they have to leave. Why do you establish our mission like that? But time the Adam mafkinan. The only reason why is because there's witnesses is why we make them leave. As we said, but if there's no witnesses, we don't want him to leave because people are going to think that these kids are mamzerim. So Adam. Why do you want to say a case? Our mission is a case where there are Adam and their kids. Mashma, if there's no if there's no Adam, then he doesn't have to leave. Why don't we say the cases that there are no children and there are no witnesses, and we still want them to leave because there's no kids, so he can leave. So Amarava Masnisin Kashisi. Our mission is difficult in the reading. My area the Tani Hoitziyuha. Why does it say that they took her out? That Beis Din took her out. Lisni Hoitziya, that he the husband did it. Ela Kol Hoitziyuha. But based in the Adam Hu Demafki, the fact that it uses this language, it sounds like the Beis Din was involved. Now, why would the Beis Din be involved in having this first marriage be removed? It must be because there was Adam to that effect. And therefore, it must be that our Mishnah is talking about the case of Adam and that there are children. And since there are children, the diak is that only because there's Adim, which is mashma, in the situation where there would not be Adim, we would not have them leave. Because, again, we would not want the second man, a suspected adulterer, to leave. Okay. Based in Be'edim Hudamavki. Ve'iboy say another answer. Hani mas naisa Rabbi. This is masnisa. This Mishnah is actually like Rabbi, the Sanya. Roichel yoitze, if you have a peddler that goes out, v'isha chogeres b'tzinor, and a woman is with her keli. Says Rashi, Roichel is moicher b'samim, when noshim was kashi behen. So you have this guy, a peddler, who goes around selling all these spices and beautiful things for these women. So Roichel yoitze, let's say this guy leaves min habayis, says Rashi, umatzas es ishto, and he finds his wife, she chogeres b'tzinor. Mechor hadavar shlo hitirasa imeleha el oznus. So it seems like, says Rashi, what's it tzinor? Who kein michnasayim shahayu anashim chaygros watznias. So tzinor is like a woman's clothing. So all of a sudden he sees, her clothes in this manner. Which means, so Omer Rebbe hoyel umechor hadavar teitze. Since this is a repulsible matter, so therefore he should remove her from this relationship. Roik umalwa minakila. What if there is a spittle above the bed? Omer Rebbe hoyel umechor hadavar teitze. Again, because this is here, and this is again a roichel yoitze koi. This it says, and you found the spittle Lamala begaga keel on the top of the bed, mizar karok lamala kiim hashaychev upanav lamala hilchach zinsazu kraka b'shas tashmish. It's possible that this saliva, this bodily fluid, came due to tashmish for this reichel. Mochar davar teitze, because it's repulsive, so you leave. Minolim hafuchim betachas imita. As we continue Chav Hamad Aleph, what if you have the shoes that are on the bed underneath the bed improperly? Rashi says v'havchan kadesh lo yaker haroya, so the seer shouldn't see them. That's why you put them there. Rebbe hoyo mechor hadavar teitze. So again, the fact that it was done in this way, the way the shoes were situated, so it's something in which, again, showed that there's something unusual about what happened, and therefore it perhaps is reason to suspect. So why don't we just see whose they are? That doesn't mean you found these shoes, it means the place where they were. Okay. The hilchos hakavasi to Rab, hilchos hakavasi to Rabbi. So halacha is like Rab, says Rashi, the oimer ein machzikin kala el be'edim, that we establish that it has to be only if there's witnesses is there a problem, and we also say that the halacha is hilchos hakavasi to Rabbi. Kasha hilchasa hilchasa. So the question is, how is the halacha like both of them? Lo kasha ha b'kol the pasik, ha b'kol the lo pasik. So what is this referring to? The question is if the rumor is something that continues or not. It says Rashi, the pasuk shiyatza koil acher lomer sheker hu halaz. If let's say there's another rumor that says this was a lie, then perhaps the first rumor has no validity. So kol deloi pasuk v'leika edim karebi. So if let's say you have a situation where they have a rumor and there was no change in that rumor and there's no witnesses, then we hold like Rabbi. Kol the pasuk v'ika edim karav. If let's say you have a situation where the rumor continues, rumor is rather broken with someone saying no, it was a lie, but there's witnesses, then the din is like Rav that says in machzikin kol el be'edim. The kol do pasuk ad kama. So Amar Abaya Amar le'aim. So my mother said, Daimid Masa Yoim Opalga. It's a day and a half. So these rumors last about that long. We only say this is the length of a rumor if there was no interruptions in between. Of a pasuk beni veni, if there was an interruption that wasn't that long of a news cycle, hapasuk, so it stopped. So again, the question is, why did the rumor stop? It was because of fear, so then that may not be a valid reason for the stop. It's only if there's no one that fears. You have no enemies. It's very possible that it's just that the witnesses or the people are just people that hate you, so it's not necessarily of any validity. Okay. We'll stop here. Let's see a couple questions. Question 6. Hanitan al Eishes Ish. So there's a question about this woman, V'nis Garsha. She got divorced. V'nasa v'nechshad ba. And then the person who was suspect married her. So be'elu fanim ein moitzin oisa. So when do we say that this man does not have to leave? So we said if afseke acher. One situation is if there was another person that was there, or yeshla banim, or she had children. So that's what it says over here. The time to asa acher ve'afke l'kola. So that's one answer, and the second is it's totally on banim. Okay, so if she had children, again, we're not going to have him leave, and also we're not going to have her leave in a situation where there was someone in between. Let's see, question 7. Mashna hamaitzias ishto mishum shem rav hechzira mehanitoin al eshes ish v'nasa acher shiatza dezeh yoytzi v'zel lo yoytzi. Okay, we didn't do that. Let's see if there's any more questions. TB9. Hanitan al eshes ish shaloi be'edim v'hoitzi o be'elofanu v'koli alma im konsa nitan lo teitze. This is the same question. TB9, as we said before. Im konsa acher benetayim, if someone else married her in between, or be'im yeshla banim min harishon. If she had children from the first marriage, then we're also going to say that the first one stays. So the woman will stay with this man. That's TB9. Which is the same question really as question 6. TA 8. Adkan.